Laotian national Tulie Vang was convicted of repeatedly sexually abusing a 10-year-old girl in the state of Minnesota. Just days before this foreign sex offender was scheduled to be deported, Tim Walz, the governor, issued him a pardon. Well, this week I revoked his legal status in the United States, and as a result, federal agents took him into custody, and as of today, he has been removed from the United States.
Radical left-wing politicians reached a chilling new low when Minnesota Governor Tim Walz granted a full pardon to Tulie Vang, a convicted pedophile who repeatedly abused a defenseless 10-year-old girl. Shockingly, Walz signed the clemency papers mere days before this foreign sex offender was scheduled to face justice and be permanently deported from America. Let's look straight at the explosive footage.
Just weeks ago, a convicted sex offender and a foreign national was shielded from deportation by the governor of Minnesota. Laotian national Tulie Vang was convicted of repeatedly sexually abusing a 10-year-old girl in the state of Minnesota. He even tried to pay his victim for her silence, and he called his heinous crimes a minor thing. Just days before this foreign sex offender was scheduled to be deported, Tim Walz, the governor, issued him a pardon, setting him free to once again endanger the children of America. Well, this week I revoked his legal status in the United States, and as a result, federal agents took him into custody, and as of today, he has been removed from the United States. Because of our action, this foreign criminal will never pose a threat to any American ever again. Americans must never be forced by their elected leaders to live alongside foreign sex criminals who have no right to begin with to reside in our country. This administration will always stand with the American people and defend them from violent criminals.
Granted a shocking pardon in June, the 42-year-old Vang escaped justice more than 2 decades after his 2006 conviction. In his clemency plea last year, Vang wrote, "The shame and regret I carry, especially as my children have grown older and learned about my past, run deep. If it were possible to undo what happened, I would do so without hesitation." Yet, police records reveal a much darker truth. Vang initially dismissed his vile assault as a cultural thing and shamelessly offered the victim money to remain silent. Due to his illegal immigrant status and criminal record, DHS had slated Vang for imminent removal from the United States. However, the Minnesota Clemency Review Commission, empowered by Governor Tim Walz, used its authority to grant this pardon, shielding him from deportation despite his past. Although Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison noted the Trump administration does not have to restore his green card and could restart proceedings, the fallout remains explosive. Earlier, during a heated House Oversight Committee hearing, Representative Glenn Grothman relentlessly grilled Governor Walz about Minnesota fraud and unrest tied to ICE enforcement operations.
Mr. Grothman from Wisconsin.
Thank you. We'll go for Governor Walz again. A major focus of today's hearing has been the misuse of federal funds distributed through the Child Care and Development Block Grant. This program is supposed to be helping working families afford child care, and I think the taxpayers expect these programs to be protected from waste and fraud. Most states operate these programs responsibly. The national improper payment average is about 4%. As you know, I kind of watch what's going on in Minnesota because it's a state adjacent to Wisconsin. It's amazing if you're a congressman, the number of people who get Minnesota and Wisconsin confused. But when that number climbs above the national average of 4%, it should be a warning sign that oversight has failed. Minnesota's improper payment rate got up to 11%. It's not a small administrative mistake, over almost 3 times the national average. That is a system that's clearly not being monitored the way it should be. When Wisconsin had a similar program several years ago, when I was in the state legislature, in 2010, we uncovered fraud in our child care assistance program. Wisconsin did not look away. We took responsibility, implemented serious reforms, and those reforms included expanding background checks for providers, creating a dedicated fraud investigation unit, strengthening eligibility requirements, and instituting a comprehensive audit system. That would have been when Scott Walker was governor. Because of these reforms, Wisconsin now has an improper payment of under 1%. So in other words, we almost totally wiped out the problem. Didn't happen by accident. It happened because Governor Walker took responsibility and acted quickly. He thought fraud was a problem. Governor Walz, Minnesota had similar warning signs. Investigators, auditors, even internal officials kept raising concerns about fraud in social service systems. And it didn't just cost taxpayers money. These programs are meant to help children and working families. When fraud drains millions of these dollars from these programs, that money is not reaching the people it was intended to serve. First of all, Governor Walz, when did your administration first become aware that fraud risks were escalating in Minnesota's child care assistance program? You were kind of an outlier in the whole country.
Well, thank you, Congressman. This dates back to about 2012 that the action has been being taken. And as I stated earlier, on our first days in office, we started taking action. I would ask if I could on this, anything that Governor Walker did, I would appreciate if you would show us what those actions were. We're more than happy to implement them, and that's what we've started over the last 7 years.
Reports indicate that some providers continued receiving payments even after the fraud concerns were raised. Was that a decision made by your administration, and who specifically you feel did not?
I can't speak specifically to which those were. Decisions are made at the department level, but I can't speak to what those allegations were.
We're told it was still 11% under your administration. When fraud indicators appear in a program funded by federal taxpayers, do you believe the responsible action is to pause payments until those concerns are investigated?
I don't think it's that simple. As I said, these programs provide a really important service, and child care is a critical one. The issue is trying to make sure the legitimate payments are made and that you're stopping fraud. So I don't think in all cases that pausing those payments is the right action.
Okay, just in general, I'll say when the fraud percentage reached 11% in Minnesota, and we got it down under 1% in Wisconsin, I think it's a cause for concern. I'll give you another question because a little bit of this hearing wandered a little bit to what happened in your streets out there. When any agency comes to Wisconsin, any federal agency, I've talked to several of our sheriffs, could be ICE, could be Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, could be FBI, could be Secret Service. Our sheriffs always try to coordinate with the federal agencies, ask them what they need. You need us to set up a perimeter. Can we help you by transporting people to the local jail? Do you just want some squad cars parked around to presumably keep troublemakers at bay? That was not done in Minnesota like it's routinely done in certainly all of.
I don't think that's a correct characterization. I think Tom Holman indicated that those things do happen and have been happening.
During the time in which you had the serious riots or whatever you want to call them in Minnesota, I believe that you did not reach out for your state law enforcement to help out federal law enforcement, in part because you're a sanctuary state. And
that is incorrect. Tom Holman indicated we are not. I don't know what to tell you, Congressman. We did. We want to cooperate. That's not what you saw on the streets.
Right. We did not see cooperation.
You saw ICE agents shooting people in the head. You saw little children being drug out. You saw ICE agents indiscriminately throwing smoke grenades. And I think what the world saw was peaceful resistance and a defense of their neighbors. So this is not about immigration reform. This was about an untrained force that came in, not with the intention of immigration.
I would say that you did not have the interaction between local law enforcement and federal agencies that is routinely seen around the country. Thank you.
Governor Tim Walz's shameful pardon threatened to unleash a dangerous criminal back into our communities, effectively endangering American children once again. But the Trump administration absolutely refused to let that happen. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stepped up and completely crushed Walz's blatant attempt to shield an illegal migrant predator. Taking immediate, decisive action, Rubio utilized the full power of the federal government to override this woke state overreach and permanently revoke the criminal's legal status. Thanks to this rapid federal response, agents apprehended Vang, threw him on a plane, and permanently removed him from the United States. Rubio delivered a massive reality check to the public, firmly declaring that Americans must never be forced by their elected leaders to live alongside foreign sex offenders who have absolutely no right to reside in our country. If you are sick and tired of radical Democrats like Tim Walz prioritizing the comfort of violent foreign felons over the physical safety of our children, smash that subscribe button right now. We are fiercely dedicated to exposing this deep state madness and dropping uncensored political truth bombs every single day. Your support keeps this channel on the front lines. The sickening details of this specific case demand absolute outrage. Vang's 2006 conviction stems from the repeated assault of a helpless little girl. Police records reveal he arrogantly dismissed his horrific crimes as a minor issue, claimed the abuse was simply a cultural thing, and even tried to bribe the 10-year-old victim with cash for her silence. Shockingly, Walz and his Minnesota Clemency Review Commission knew these exact vile details, yet they still wielded their board power to restore Vang's status and attempt to secure him a green card. Unfortunately, this is not the first time Walz has been exposed for failing to monitor serious, widespread corruption under his watch. During a fiery House Oversight Committee hearing, Wisconsin Republican Congressman Glenn Grothman stepped to the microphone and completely dismantled Walz's catastrophic record on welfare fraud. Grothman presented hard data proving that under Walz's administration, Minnesota's improper payment rate for the Child Care Assistance Block grant skyrocketed to a staggering 11%, nearly 3 times the national average. While neighboring conservative states like Wisconsin implemented strict background checks and robust auditing systems to eliminate fraud, Walz allowed taxpayer funds intended for working families to systematically line corrupt pockets, offering weak excuses instead of freezing the illicit payments. Whether he is allowing vital social service programs to be looted by fraudsters or actively pardoning a monster who targeted a 10-year-old child, Tim Walz has proven he will always elevate his radical agenda above the American people. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on Marco Rubio decisively tearing up Walz's pedophile pardon. Smash that like button, share this vital video with every parent in America, stay safe, stay vigilant, and I will see you in the next breakdown.